Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Welcome to this episode of Alien Lizard Humanoids. Tonight we'll be looking at the case of David Charles Grusch. We'll get started with introductions. Jeff?
My name's Jeff Pincin, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor, Delaware and Pennsylvania, and I specialize in the treatment of OCD and other anxiety disorders. And thanks to everybody who left a comment or a question. At some point, we're planning on responding to them in YouTube Shorts, so hopefully soon. But leave a comment or a question, and we will be able to respond to them in YouTube Shorts here pretty soon. But if I hadn't become a counselor, I wanted to become popular for making claims based on hearsay and secondhand information. Hear something from somebody, tell it to a whole bunch of other people, maybe put it out on the internet, that kind of thing. Become really popular. It's not like anybody's ever made money off of saying something crazy on the internet, right? That doesn't happen, right?
Yeah, no, that never happened.
I've never heard of that. Right. I could be the first one that just says something based on something somebody else said. It's got to be a whole big market for it.
Yeah. I'm sure you have to build up to that, though, to be in it.
Well, I guess I got to start somewhere. Yeah. But it didn't happen. So counseling. Another shattered dream.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yep.
Counseling is the road to shattered dreams. Mike?
Name's Mike Smith, also a licensed professional counselor in the state of Delaware. I focus on narrative therapy and geek therapy, and I'm a self-styled expert in all things geek. And if I had not become a counselor at one time in my life, I would have been really creative, and I just wanted to, I wanted to create acronyms.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Like, there's more to creating acronyms than just, stringing the letters together, because you just come up with a name for something and put the letters together. There's your acronym. No. You have to finesse that.
Yeah.
You have to find a way to make a word out of the acronym.
A whole acrostic kind of thing.
Yeah, got to do an acrostic thing. Turns out that places like the military don't want acrostics that spell out dirty words.
And how lame.
I was young, impetuous, and they refused to buy it from me, so
That's a shame.
I had to become a counselor.
Oh, man. That sucks.
Yeah,
Man.
it's terrible.
What was that? Was that Marvel? Doesn't Marvel have an organization called Shield?
Yeah.
Right, which is so forced.
Strategic Homeland Intervention and Logistics Division. It's the Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement and Logistics Division. Yep.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Mike, that could have been your department.
Right?
Yeah.
Could have been. Could have been my bailiwick. Imagine the acronym I could have made out of bailiwick.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
You just get a really long word and just be like, make an acronym out of that. All right.
That's your job. Go for it.
All right. So let's hear some background on David Charles Grusch. This is some type of senior intelligence official that had some interesting things to say about possible UFOs.
Yeah. So he was a decorated combat officer in the U.S. Air Force, held different positions in the military and government related to investigating non-human occurrences. So from 2019 to 2022, he was involved in the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, and the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force. Talk about your acronyms.
The UAP task force.
Right.
That's a great acronym.
Yeah. So
simple to the point.
So everything that he has come out with since, has to do with these offices that he was a part of. So June 5th of this year, 2023, he did an interview with News Nation, interviewed by Ross Coulthart. I think that's how you say it. He alleged that the U.S. government possesses spacecraft and bodies from non-humans and has top-secret programs devoted to investigating and pursuing UAPs. UFOs, UAPs, kind of the new name for that, unidentified aerial phenomena. He claimed to have been briefed and given information about these programs from high-level government officials, but has not actually seen any of these alleged spacecraft or bodies. So this is information that he was briefed on. He was these high-level people told me about this, and came out as a whistleblower, protected under the Whistleblowers Act, and gave this information to the Senate, and at least 2 senators, as of right now, are planning to have some kind of hearing based on this information. So, he's a whistleblower. at this point.
From what I understand, part of the whistleblowing claim is that he claims that he had other evidence, like not just the testimony, but
Yep, you're right.
other evidence and documents that he turned over
Right.
to government officials. I think it was the Inspector General. And then that information just vanished. And that's why he's being a whistleblower, is because he's trying to say, that information exists, it's there, I gave the proof over, but they won't release it. They should release it.
Yeah.
But it's all secondhand information anyway.
Yeah, well, did he ever claim, I don't think he ever claimed to see an alien, right?
No,
No.
not to my knowledge.
His claims were all that he was briefed or told by other people who had high-level clearances that he knew and were credible, and that they gave like affidavit-type documentation, and that some of them gave him other documents that led to this. He talked about the hidden program. Mm-hmm. He kept talking about the program over and over, which he then said. He also said that when he was most recently on the UAP task force, and he said the UAP task force wasn't read into the program, meaning like they weren't told about it. Mm-hmm. So these other government officials that he talked to told him that there was this clandestine organization that goes around securing these alien crafts, these non-human crafts, and that he was on the UAP task force. We should have known about that.
Yeah.
Well, you should have if it had existed. I'm not convinced.
He claimed some information about the Vatican back in the 30s or 40s or something like that. And,
Mussolini.
yeah, and hiding some kind of crashed UAP, something or other. And I mean, went real deep on this stuff.
Claimed that in the regime of Benito Mussolini in 1933 found a crashed non-human craft. He never says alien. He specifically never says alien throughout anything.
Right.
Gotta
They're,
be
they're non-human.
Non-human.
Those official terms.
Yeah. So it could be like a squirrel or a rabbit.
I mean, those flying squirrels, they're getting more sophisticated by the day.
They're thrown off the radar, right? The confusing pilots.
The stealth squirrels. Ninja squirrels.
I mean, I can't think of anything much more non-human than a flying squirrel, perhaps, or a platypus.
I don't know,
maybe,
flying
or
lizard.
Flying lizard, that could be it. Or
lizard.
platypus. I mean, if I saw one in person, I'd be pretty freaked out.
Platypi are a little weird.
Yeah.
They are the only mammalian species that lays eggs.
Different.
So he had some people who said nice things about him, right? That he was had the strongest possible moral compass, and adept staff officer, and strategist, and beyond reproach. So there you go.
He also has some senators kind of coming up behind him and agreeing with his claims. Senator Josh Hawley stated that his claims sound pretty close to what he's been briefed on. Senator Marco Rubio claims that others from high positions in government have come forward over the past few years to share information similar to what Grusch has claimed. And it's pretty amazing that senators are now coming up and saying, oh, yeah, I know about this too, or I've heard about this too. It's a dangerous path to go down.
Yeah. So I guess he also has this follow-up interview he did talking specifically about the dead alien pilots. A lot of emphasis on that. Multiple people told him. Right. So, and he admits it sounds fantastical, but said it must be true. So this is a new. I mean, we've covered a lot of UFO stories, UAP, I guess now, UAP stories.
Well, we Benny and Barney Hill started
the most famous,
way back.
the most famous UFO story of all, probably, arguably, right?
Well, it kicked off the whole abduction side of things.
Mm-hmm. Really interesting case, and there've been a few other kind of high-profile cases, but I can't remember any until this guy that was like, I didn't really see anything, but some other people told me they definitely saw something, and they had some documents. I couldn't tell you where those documents are, but they said they had the documents. It just seems like such a distant remote effort,
Yeah.
right? At least with Betty and Barney Hill, they're like, we saw a spaceship. Like,
Right.
They were trying.
Right.
They're like, yeah, we saw it firsthand.
Personal stories.
Yeah. The aliens were like walking up to him and stuff. They saw the aliens. This guy's like, well, a few people told me. That
Not
they're-
just one.
Right.
No, a few credible sources. They were credible sources. People I've known my entire career. My problem with all of that is it's all still just eyewitness testimony. If he's talking to people who supposedly witnessed these things, that's eyewitness testimony. That counts as one piece of evidence, no matter how many people saw it.
Yeah, well, and he's saying that he heard it from them, so it's hearsay, right? So you have the other level of error.
Right.
Like, did he hear it right? Were they just joking? It's like, hey, watch this. I'm going to tell David something.
Yeah.
Hey, I saw this dead alien pilot. What?
Look,
said
I wrote
what?
it up in this document too.
You can't have this, but I'm holding it, and it's a document. It's like a blank piece of paper. They fold like a paper airplane with it later, and like, oh, yeah, David, that guy, he'll believe anything.
Oh, look, I typed this thing up last night. I put some coffee stains on it this morning. I'm going to say it's like 30 years old.
Yeah, right. That's a possibility. Anything's a possibility there because nothing's been verified and nothing's, factual as far as anybody knows. And it's all coming from, what was it, News Nation? Is that what it was? Which, I mean, if anybody had ever heard of that prior to this, but no other news network would touch it for good reasons.
The other big thing is that let's say that David Grusch, that he's on the up and up, right? That he does have a moral compass. His credibility is great, which it really looks like it is. And he interviews all of these people, and they give him their stories. The problem is with their stories, not with Grusch. Like, he's just kind of compiling everything together. It's with their stories, and each and every one of them could have false memory. They could be joking with him. They could be messing around with him.
It seems
Some of them
like
could
that's a
have false memories of events that happen, and are really convinced that this stuff really happened. So they're telling him earnestly, like, I know this happened, even though it's a
Maybe
false
they
info.
heard it from a friend.
They might have heard it from somebody. But even he goes back to the biggest one, the big one, Roswell. He goes back to Roswell and says, within days, people were saying they saw these aliens, and that actually is not true. Historically speaking, it was almost a decade after Roswell happened that the first person came out and said they saw an alien body at Roswell. It didn't happen immediately. Nobody came forward in the months after and said, "Where's alien bodies?" It was years later. And time is the biggest thing that can falsify memories. Yeah. And there's a show, I finally found it. I've been looking for it for the last couple of years, called Unsolved History. It ran from like 2002 to 2005. In the second season, they do a Roswell episode. And they actually showed an experiment that's been run on false memory implantation. And what they did was they took a bunch of people out on a nature hike. All of the people were told they were going on a nature hike. And somewhere along the way of the nature hike, they had staged people wearing hazmat suits spraying, okay, with caution tape around. Okay, now this could be just people, exterminators, spraying stuff. Spraying for underground wasps or yellow jackets or something. But during the nature walk, the nature guide had talked about UFO sightings in the area. So they come across this scene, and then the guide very purposefully whooshes them away because it's a caution tape, everything. And it caught up with all of these people 6 months later. And some people were like, okay, yeah, we just went on a walk and there was really nothing to see. But there were a few who were like, I saw an alien craft. There was a UFO there. Like, it was there. And these people came out of it, and there's alien. Like, at least one of them said they saw an alien and was honest and earnest about it. They're like, I know this happened.
Right.
Like, but they in the show, they side by side, like this person talking about what they saw and what actually was recorded happening. And they're absolutely nothing alike.
Right.
That can happen. And the longer time goes on, the more fanciful and fantastical those implanted or false memories can get.
Right.
And that's where we might have David Grusch running into some people who have had that happen to them. and they believe it. It's real for them, and that's what's so convincing.
And they believe him to be credible.
And they believe him to be credible.
A high-ranking officer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, people, we've talked about this before, people believe what they want to believe. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that they adjust their memory over time a little bit to fit into a narrative that they want, sometimes maybe a lot. And I think that does become real to them.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely happened. I've seen cases before where people's history was based on trauma. Like, they had grown up believing that they had been victimized. They went to groups, they sought therapy, they had problems with alcohol, and everything was predicated on, when I was young, something happened.
Right.
And upon investigating, nothing happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was nothing happened. And they, but that was part of their identity, and they went back like, well, maybe I remember this, but maybe it didn't happen. And they started to question everything, and
right.
It never occurred.
Nothing there.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I believe there were some cases that happened like that. They came to legal things where people were accused of horrible abuses against somebody that it just literally it never happened.
Yeah, nothing even close.
Nothing close ever happened. But especially like with therapists who do false memory or do memory recovery or repressed memory recovery
Memory
therapy.
manufacturing.
That's really what it is memory manufacturing. But they bill it as memory recovery therapy.
Right.
Like that's what they put in the headline. When they get into that, they start like, we're going to recover these memories, especially the hypnotist ones. It's like, we're going to hypnotize you and recover these memories. And what there really is manufacturing those memories. And the person really believes it. And that's more traumatizing than what actually happened in their life.
Wasn't there a school we covered where there was all these terrible allegations and they prosecuted the people, but they never convicted anybody?
You and I did that. That's one of the lost episodes. That was back in we talked about the Satanic Panic in the 1980s.
Yeah.
The daycare that might have come up in one of our other videos, but yeah, I think it was Richard Ramirez. We touched on that. But
As the state was trying to build their case, right? They brought the kids in to be interviewed, and someone were like, "Well, yeah, there was like hot air balloons." Like, what?
There were tunnels underneath the ground. Like the toilets
formed
became
a
tunnels.
network of tunnels. They're like, what are you talking about? So like the prosecutors were trying to keep a lid on all this testimony.
Yeah, yeah.
And it eventually the nonsense just overwhelmed them.
The psychologists who were interviewing the kids were manufacturing memories like woe in those kids, which was problematic. But that was the 80s and the huge moral panic surrounding that. And what they still call the Satanic Panic. Just, oh, look, that looks like it has to do with Satan. It's bad.
It's a ritual.
Yeah. Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering, all of these are terrible things. Don't play video games. That video game with the guy with the axe, that's satanic.
I think Dragnet, the theme of the movie Dragnet, not the TV show, which is great, which is years and years ago, but the movie like Dan Aykroyd was based on the Satanic Panic, and they had like a gang that had like these symbols and stuff. That was actually a pretty good movie, Dragnet. That's going back some years, I think. It was in color though, like it was like 80s or something.
There were a few episodes of the Dragnet TV show in color.
I was talking about the movie, but the series goes way back.
Yeah, it was way back.
Yeah.
I heard in a session at some point recently, kind of a reference to a Satanic Panic kind of thing. Not in California, not the original 1980s thing, but somebody had referenced a certain town and had heard kind of through the grapevine that these certain businesses had certain things on the front of them, certain images or something, and because that business had that image, that owner was involved in some kind of immoral, satanic something. And it was a pretty good way of going into exactly what we're talking about tonight, about how just because somebody says something doesn't make it true. Just because somebody says, oh, I know that this business does this or thinks the owner thinks this or whatever, it doesn't actually mean it's true probably just has something to do with somebody wants a reason for something. They're looking for a reason for something. So let's blame it on something we don't have any control over. We don't have control over aliens or UAPs or if somebody believes in a certain thing or not. So let's say they do, and we'll avoid that business, and, we'll be the good guys. They'll be the bad guys. That'll make us feel better. And it is a wild way of thinking that everyone out there is out there to get me, right? Or there's something happening that I don't have any control over, and it's out there to get me, or it's bad, or it's whatever. And it's that line of thinking that leads someone to hearing something about aliens, non-human beings, and then saying information about it, or saying they have information about it, leads to this interview that gets all this attention, and there's no evidence to it.
The restaurant is involved.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot like the Pizzagate thing a few years ago.
Right,
Yeah.
right along the same lines. Everybody's looking for a reason to.
There was still recently a person who thought that was true. They took a gun into that restaurant and tried to force their way into the underground. What they thought was an underground basement entrance, which was just a closet.
It was a computer closet.
Yeah, it was a computer closet. Like that's how convinced people can get.
I think he fired his gun too, right?
I believe so.
Didn't hurt anybody.
Didn't hurt anybody, but was definitely arrested for trespassing and terroristic threatening, things like that. And but yeah, he was trying to get into the underground trafficking facility underneath that restaurant, that pizza place. None of it's true. There's no evidence. It's been refuted numerous times.
There wasn't even a basement in the.
There's no basement in that building. There's never been a basement in that building
we know of.
And
maybe they filled it in.
Yeah, they filled it in right before he got there, and they managed to build a computer room in that closet.
It's amazing.
In the 30 seconds between when he walked through the door and got to that closet.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that guy, I forget what charges specifically, but there were charges involved for going in there with the gun. He had I think a rifle and maybe a pistol. I can't remember, but he had some weapons, firearms. And then, of course, after that, usually people are remorseful. Like, whoops, and I think he kind of was, but then later he's like, well, I'm still not sure.
Oh.
Like if
Right. Like he's got himself so convinced. Yeah. But in that scenario, in his worldview, in his mind, and again, can't diagnose or get anything more specific than this is my what I believe might be happening is he's the hero. Mm-hmm. In that situation, because he took the action, because for him there's a very real children were in danger, and he was going to go rescue those children.
He had the hero mentality,
right? Yeah, so he had the hero mentality. He's going to go in and rescue these children. There's no truth about there's no children in danger at all, but he's convinced himself of that so much that even in the face of absolute truth. Like he's standing in the room where this entrance to this underground basement is supposed to be, and it's just a computer closet. Not even a full room. It's just a closet where there's a computer. There's no secret entrance. There's no stairway. There's no nothing. There's no basement in the building at all. Even the face of all of that, he's just, I'm still not sure.
Still not confident.
Because he's convinced himself.
Yeah.
It was an AR-15 style rifle that he fired 3 times in Comet Ping Pong. Comet Ping Pong was the name of the restaurant.
Okay.
And he was from North Carolina. I think the restaurant was in Washington, D.C., if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Well, you definitely can't carry a gun like that. And that's a pretty strict area for
very, very strict on the gun.
That.
On the gun control in the nation's capital. I don't know why.
Yeah,
it's not like a president's going to be sitting in a theater somewhere and get shot in the head, because that could never happen.
Right, it never happened before.
Yeah, so that was a weird.
I'm sorry about the Lincoln joke. It's too soon. I know.
It's too soon. Still raw.
Still raw. Still hurts.
People still feeling it.
Still hurts.
For a while there, a very popular thing that was on the internet was this supposed connection between Kennedy and Lincoln. Like all these things, like their secretaries had the opposite name or something, and then, you dig into it, it's like there was very, very little connecting.
Yeah.
Lee Harvey Oswald and John Wilkes Booth. They both had 3 names. They both were born.
They both walked on 2 feet all the time.
Well, Booth didn't, not all the time. I mean, after he jumped out of the balcony, he kind of broke his leg. 6 Separatus, crack, ow.
Yeah, things didn't work out too well for him.
No.
But yeah, like I think those 2 presidents in particular, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about them, especially Kennedy, because that really incredible shot. I mean, which I get it, like it's an almost impossible shot to hit a person's head in the back of a vehicle from the book repository. I mean, but still the most likely explanation.
When you fire like 5 shots in rapid succession, one of them might hit.
He was a good shot too.
Yeah, he was.
A good shot.
Clearly. Yeah.
There are a lot of people who claim that he wasn't, but he was Marine Corps trained. Like, and that's actually one of the funny parts. R. Lee Ermey in, I think it was
Mail Call. The show Mail Call.
Mail Call. R. Lee Ermey did Mail Call. He also played the sergeant in was it Platoon?
Platoon?
It was Platoon. Oh, it was
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket.
It was Full Metal Jacket. There's the scene where he's like just before firing class, and he's going on and on about how John F. Kennedy was shot and Lee Harvey Oswald shot him, and then he goes, he was trained Marine sniper. Like, we're gonna get you to shoot that well because that's a 1 in a million shot he made. Yeah, R. Lee Ermey was a great actor.
R. Lee Ermey, Full Metal Jacket, he was hired to train other people. And I think it was the director or producer, somebody saw him and cast him. That was his first, I think that was his first credited role.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't in the Screen Actors Guild or anything.
Right.
Like he was a former Marine and served in Vietnam. And then after that, he kept getting these parts like appropriate for like a drill instructor, and I think he was also in, he was in a lot of different things. There's a Mail Call on that show for a short-lived, but pretty neat show where he tested weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
And he went to Vietnam. And he was also in a Steven Seagal movie where, like, Steven was trying to, like, something on an oil rig, was it Fire Down Below or something? R. Lee Ermey played the bad guy that Steven Seagal, I think, killed or
Probably.
whatever. Yeah.
Of course, Seagal killed him.
In Seagal movies, there's never, like, a tension, like, is he going to lose a fight?
No. There's never
No one ever thinks that he's not going to.
He tosses everybody around. Like, there's no... If he's in the room, like, oh, good, we're safe. Steven Seagal just came in the room.
Seagal's just going to kill everybody. All right, cool.
But Stallone, you never knew,
Yeah.
right? Like
Stallone, he got beat a couple of times. You know,
Rocky.
after Rocky 3. No, the first Rocky. Yeah. Well,
Spoiler alert for that.
technically, yeah, he did lose that one, but his goal wasn't to win. His goal was just go the distance. And then Rocky 2, he wins. Of course, in Rocky 3, he loses again. And then he wins again.
It was a Rocky history.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There was I watched a 3-part special on Schwarzenegger on Netflix. It was actually really good.
Oh, yeah?
It was very pro-Arnold, maybe a little too pro-Arnold, but he did have an amazing career. And Stallone was on there
Okay.
talking about how like they were rivals in the movies and how they had different styles. I always considered Schwarzenegger much bigger than Stallone. I mean, physically, yeah, but also... money, like the money he brought in for movies was like Terminator 2. Like
Yeah, Terminator 2 is huge. That was one of the biggest, at the time, one of the biggest action movies ever made.
The liquid metal effect.
Oh, yeah.
Was,
yeah.
No, my favorite joke about that, though, was in the absolutely horrible Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Last Action Hero.
He talked about that, yeah.
I love that sequence, though. They go into the Blockbuster video, and there's the standee of Stallone as the Terminator in Terminator 2. It's hilarious.
Well, he talked about Terminator in the special, and how he didn't want to be the Terminator. He wanted to be was it John
Connor?
John Connor, or no, not Connor.
He wanted to be Kyle Reese.
Kyle Reese.
Yeah, he wanted to be Kyle
Michael
Reese.
Baine's character.
Yeah. The problem was his accent.
Well, but also like at that time he didn't have much in the way of acting skill, and the Terminator was very stoic. Like you're supposed to be robotic, and it only had 26 lines or 26 words. Like it was very like Terminator doesn't say much. I'll be back, and a few other things.
Yeah, right.
Give me your clothes or something like that. Like small lines. And he was like
Nice night
offended.
for a walk.
He was offended. He thought that he could be the hero. He didn't want to be a villain. And then look what happened with Terminator. A huge movie.
Yeah.
I guess Stallone, to be fair. Stallone had Rambo, the Rambo series. He had the Rocky series.
And the Rocky series.
Rocky 46, big hit.
Right. Well, they're still going. Actually, they've kind of switched over to Creed, but it's still the same.
Yeah.
It's the same series. They're Creed 3 now recently.
Yeah, what else was he? He had a few other movies, Stallone. He had a few other.
Stallone had Demolition Man is one of the
Demolition
great cult movies.
Yeah.
One of the great cult classics. But how did we get onto Stallone and Schwarzenegger coming back around?
They're like aliens in a way.
I mean, Stallone. I don't know if I've seen a movie with him and aliens. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Schwarzenegger, Total Recall.
Schwarzenegger did have Total Recall. And technically, those were more. You never saw any aliens in Total Recall. They were mutants, but there was like alien technology. Yeah. But was it really alien technology, or was it all just manufactured memories? Which brings us back around.
Oh, Judge Dredd, not aliens, but Judge Dredd, futuristic. Yeah. You know,
future sci-fi stuff. Yeah.
But if I can stay on the tangent for 1 second, I never realized that Arlie Ermey was the voice in Toy Story of the
soldier.
The soldier, yeah, the head soldier.
Plastic soldier.
The green, the little green soldiers.
Little green men, yeah.
Arlie Ermey, he died not that long ago. Yeah, he was actually a really cool guy. He was. I saw many interviews with him, and he was very committed to the Marines. And the acting career was just like gravy for him. Mm-hmm. Although I think he did enjoy it.
I think that his story, like just being on set, training somebody else, and then going on, the same story with Danny Trejo, who played Machete as the most famous. Like Danny Trejo's been in everything.
He really
has.
Has.
He's been in like 400 movies or something like that. Yeah. He's hugely, just goes into anything. Everybody says, "Hey, can I film you in a movie?" Like, yeah, sure. Like,
I'll be there.
He'll do it. And he's a wonderful speaker. I've listened to a couple of his talks in front of AA groups.
Oh, okay.
Because Danny Trejo has been in AA since the 60s.
Oh, nice.
And he stays sober because of it. His story is amazing. If you ever get a chance to listen to one of Danny Trejo's AA talks online, there's some of them on YouTube. They're phenomenal. He's really funny. But that's the same thing that happened to him. He was hired by somebody to teach him how to do realistic boxing in a movie. And so he's on set teaching his kid to box. And the director sees him and just like thinks it was a movie about boxing in jail. So I saw him and he's all tatted up and everything. And do you want to be in the movie? Just he puts you in the background. And then like he's in the background and he's still teaching him how to box. And it's like, do you want to actually have a speaking role? And then he's just like, yeah, sure. And they're suddenly like giving him money and paying him and stuff. And he's like flabbergasted. I love that he hasn't lost that humility either.
Yeah,
he's done so much.
He's got such a wide range. He can be so incredibly intimidating, but also
and just
very
completely
funny.
ridiculous.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's great.
He's amazing.
You never really know what you're going to get out of him either, because when you see him, he generally looks intimidating, just the way that he looks with the tattoos and all that. But then no sooner would he be completely goofy. Right after that, like, I come in looking intimidating. You never know what you're going to get in such a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I remember the first time I saw Danny Trejo in a movie was in Desperado, Antonio Banderas back in the day. And he was just super intimidating, like, just didn't talk, like, threw knives and killed people.
Desperado had a very John Wick feel to it, I think.
It did.
With the gunplay.
It did, yeah.
I think it was like one of the first over-the-top gunplay movies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so I don't know how we got in those tangents, but...
False Memories. We came back around. Total Recall brought us back around
there you go.
to False Memories, because Total Recall is all about false memories. Or did it really happen?
Mm-hmm. Never know.
You never know. I mean, I got to say I like the Arnold Schwarzenegger version better.
Yeah.
Than the... was it Edward Norton? No, not Edward Norton. It wasn't him.
I saw both. I can't even remember who was in the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Philip K. Dick. Wrote the original story. We Sell Memories Wholesale. That was the name of the story. Hollywood goes to Philip K. Dick anytime they're bored. Just look at a Philip K. Dick story and be like, yeah, okay, let's make a movie out of it. Him and Michael Crichton.
Right.
They like to go to Michael Crichton too. Stuff like A Scanner Darkly, which was a weird Keanu Reeves movie. They was kind of like rotoscoped. Like they filmed everything, and then the entire movie is filmed with a CGI overlay over everybody. Because that's actually about some weird narcotic being sold and people using it. So like the main character is supposed to be on this stuff the entire movie. So his vision of the world is colored by this drug. So that's supposed to be why everything's rotoscoped the way it is. It was weird, but an enjoyable movie nonetheless.
Yep.
Paycheck, Ben Affleck. That was literally just a paycheck movie.
Appropriately named.
But that was also a Philip K. Dick story. One of the most famous, Blade Runner. Androids Dream of Electric Sheep was a Philip K. Dick story.
Yep. Another one where the original I remember very well, Harrison Ford. I guess he was technically in both, but and the second one I couldn't even tell you what happened.
Yeah. I never watched the second one. So I'm one of those people, as geeky as I am, that like Blade Runner was just one I couldn't get through for a long time. And I know people who are Blade Runner like fanatics are just like you've got to watch this version, and this version is the best version. And then you talk to somebody else like, no, you got to watch this version. This is the version. But like I've tried watching multiple versions. To me, it is a long, drawn out, boring movie, in my opinion. Like there's virtually nothing happens the entire movie.
I think Blade Runner. I think Blade Runner is very artistic for a sci-fi. Sci-fis can go either way. They can be very concrete. Like what was that one with the Marines killing the bugs?
Starship Troopers.
Yeah, it can be very concrete
Robert
like
Heinlein.
that. Or they can be very kind of esoteric and artistic. That one, I put like Aliens in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Aliens had some pragmatic, like the Marines blowing away aliens. Also had some like this higher level, like the corporation and the conspiracy and all. But in terms of Blade Runner, very artistic. It was very much about, I think, the cinematography, the image of the replicants, which are just people, right?
Yeah,
Like
there's people.
yeah, they're like, there's not like special, like it's just actors that play them.
And what the weird thing is, like, and within the mythology of that, they're artificial, but they're indistinguishable from regular humans to the point where you have to have this special test to be able to determine if someone's a replicant or not. Like they bleed, they've got blood, they've got cells, they're everything. Why are we making a big deal about them being different?
Well, they're twice as strong and they live half as long, I think, right? That was something like that. And they were mad about it. But I think, also if you look at the architecture in Blade Runner and the way, like, in the scene with the food market, like the lighting, and it was carefully crafted. But I agree, it was a boring movie fundamentally. Like, you had to really appreciate the art to get through it because you see that and you think, oh, good, Harrison Ford's going to blow some aliens away. Well, he does, but it's not, they weren't really aliens, but replicants. But it wasn't like an action movie.
Yeah, it definitely was not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a. I think it was a success in some ways, but I never saw the appeal at the level it achieved. Like people really like Blade Runner. Like they take it really seriously.
They do.
Yeah, I thought it was a good movie.
They take it very, very seriously, and the whole premise of artificial individuals like hiding in plain sight kind of brings us back to the topic at hand. Is like that they're saying the government is hiding in plain sight all of these non-human craft. So maybe replicants, could be lizards from the center of the earth. I think the one thing that David Grusch does touch on several times is it could be extra dimensional. Like it could be could be from the dimension right next door. Like it's not necessarily
in the multiverse. Yeah.
It's not necessarily that it's not human, but not here human, right? Maybe it's from the MCU, which is a couple steps over to the left, dimensionally speaking.
Yeah, Spider-Verse.
Could be. I love the Spider-Verse.
Didn't the last Spider-Man movie, spoiler alert for whatever that was, didn't it have multiple Spider-Mans come together?
Yeah.
And
No Way Home. They had Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire.
The least appreciated, not Tobey Maguire, the other Andrew Garfield, the least appreciated.
Yeah. And yet I thought when I initially saw him that he captured a little bit more of the quippiness than Tobey Maguire did.
Mm-hmm. He was a good Spider-Man.
He was also younger. Like Tobey Maguire was in his 30s playing a 16-year-old. Andrew Garfield was at least in his early 20s playing a 16-year-old until they finally got to Tom Holland, the best one, who was actually 16 playing a 16-year-old. I mean, by the time we got to No Way Home, he was like 24 playing an 18-year-old, but he started out 16 playing a 16-year-old.
See, I actually like Tobey Maguire's. I think he's my favorite Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. There's something about like his performance in Pleasantville.
I loved his performance. Pleasantville was just a generally great movie.
Yeah, but you get to see kind of like his range as an actor, and maybe he didn't bring all that to Spider-Man, but I thought he did a good job. I liked him.
So is the conspiracy then that the Spider-Man movie was trying to get us ready for David Grusch and like the multiverse kind of
Well, it's entirely
different
possible
realities here?
It's entirely possible. The MCU is apparently a secret government conspiracy to prepare the public for multiple universes converging, and eventually we'll see portals open up and we'll be able to access other dimensions.
So David Grusch, I mean, he's ahead of the game.
Yeah, these are quite. And the thing is, like, I think he's got enough knowledge. He's got enough scientific knowledge from the degrees that he does have and the experiences that he has. He's got enough knowledge on science and physics, and probably enough knowledge on pop culture stuff to be able to start putting these wild fantasies together. And like, okay, we've got, of course we see in the comic books and these movies extra dimensions, and science is saying it's actually a possibility. And I'm getting reports from these people that there's craft here. I don't want to say they're alien craft from across the universe, but maybe they're from the universe next door.
Well, he talks about the retrieval of spacecraft or non-human
vehicles.
Non-human vehicles, right? Yeah. And it made me think, like,
by the program,
if they're extra dimensional, then you shouldn't really have them crashing into the planet, right? They should be going through like a portal and then they're here. If they're from another galaxy or whatever, is it just like a braking issue? Like, why do they keep slamming into? Is it like, hey, we made it? Oh, you know what? We never thought about. How do we stop?
You didn't tell me I had to stop here.
Wait. What do you mean we have to land?
I thought it was just a flyby. Oh.
Maybe they figured if they went far enough, they would loop back around.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But or they need a lot of time to slow down. They're like, no, I really want to see this place. Don't pass this exit. Oh no!
It's like, no, wait a minute. This is not an atmospheric craft. What are you doing? I just thought I'd take this in for a closer look. We can't get out of the atmosphere now, right? Bob, what are we doing?
Maybe them coming to Earth is them trying to figure out how to slow down. It's kind of their test area. They'll just crash into the humans. We don't care about them.
They have a secret retrieval program. No one's going to find out.
Right. Yeah, the program.
The program, yeah.
Everyone's talking about the program. Everyone talking to Grusch is talking about the program. But the biggest problem I have with the government cover-up is that it requires people to keep secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not a thing people can do very well.
No.
No. The old dead men tell no tales. Well, that's not even true because evidence can tell us a lot about how a person died and who killed them. We have an entire podcast on that, the murder part. Mm-hmm. But if two people can keep a secret, if one of them's dead, like that one, sure. That one person might be able to keep their lips shut. Leslie Arnold did for a long period of time. But you get more than two people in a room together and they're going to talk.
Mm. Yep.
You get 15,000 people together and there's no hiding it.
Yeah.
Right? Like in the mid 90s, there was American craft that shot down, I think it was an Iranian passenger jet. And they tried to cover it up for the first 45 minutes and then it was everywhere. And that was before the internet.
Yeah, there was actually a paper
before the
published.
widespread internet.
There was a paper published some years ago about the statistical properties of conspiracies and how when you add another conspirator, how the chances drop significantly, each one. And you reach a point where it becomes, there's anything's possible, but it becomes so unlikely. And it's not a large number. It's like, like a government organization would far exceed the number of people that would make it statistically almost impossible
right.
to keep that secret. Someone someone's going to get upset.
Yeah.
Right? You got 10,000 people working for some government agency or even 1,000, and somebody's come up in retirement and be like, this is my pension? This is all I get?
Right.
You have all these secrets.
Are you kidding? Somebody's going to get a coffee order wrong and be
Yeah.
like, you're fired. And the person's going to be like, I'm telling
Telling
everybody.
They have to pay
Telling
for parking
everybody.
or something. They don't get reimbursed. That's
Right.
it. I'm out. Whistleblower here. Yeah.
I'm going to tell them that you told me, and you told me, and you told me.
And they're going to believe every word of it.
I didn't really see anything.
They're going to believe everything.
My job was in the back room, but I'm going to tell them you told me.
So anyway, my boss fired me for getting the wrong coffee.
Never going to believe what
You're never
he
going to
has.
believe this, but there's a whole bunch of people who told me that UFOs are real and that there's this program. I can't tell you what the name is, it's just the program.
The program.
Yeah. I was never involved in the program,
But I heard about
but I
it.
heard about it.
From multiple people.
Yeah, multiple. I could give you evidence too.
You know what sealed the deal for me was when I heard that Senator Lindsey Graham finds the claims unreasonable. And if Lindsey Graham is not willing to believe something far-fetched, that says a lot. And I'm okay, seals the deal for me. No chance.
I hadn't heard that particular one, but if Lindsey Graham says something's far-fetched, I don't know, maybe that changes my mind. I might have to believe this. Just to be on the other side.
Right, just
contrarian nature. No, there's no evidence. I don't find much in the way of evidence. Eyewitness testimony is not a reliable source of evidence for these kinds of things. And as I said before, 50,000 people can witness the same event. The eyewitness testimony, it still counts as one piece of evidence.
and it's going to be different.
And it's going to be different for each of those 50,000 people, but it's only one piece of evidence. And people are like, why would they lie? Well, they might not be lying. As I said, memories might have been formed.
Yeah.
But where's the other physical evidence? Where's the non-hearsay evidence?
Right. I guess you could argue that David is credible in this sense. Maybe he did hear all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're right. The question is, are those things true? We all hear a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think he's giving a lot of credence to this particular.
Right. And that, I think, is the big issue, is that people are giving so much emphasis on his credibility.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if he's credible, then all of these claims have to be true. Well, no, that's not the case. Even if he's credible, he could be credible. He could really believe what these people have said is true. But if what they've told him is not true, it doesn't say anything about his credibility or his investigative ability, because he's doing his due diligence. Just he's doing his due diligence on things that didn't happen. Right? It's kind of like if you're doing an article on, on the Disney Channel shows, right? You pick up one of those shows and be like, okay, well, did all of these things happen? And then you're reporting on things happening that were actually scripted out. Mm-hmm. None of them actually happened, but the credibility of the person reporting isn't in question because they're just reporting what they saw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he may be reporting what he heard.
Yeah.
He did talk about. There's this one line. I think this was in one of his interviews. He was interviewed in News Nation, but also there's this website called the Debrief.
The Debrief, yeah.
Which I had never heard of, and I think most people fall into that category. But he talked about here. He said individuals on these UAP programs approached me in my official capacity and disclosed their concerns regarding a multitude of wrongdoings, such as illegal contracting against federal acquisition regulations and other criminality and the suppression of information across a qualified industrial base and academia. So he's throwing in like all these, he's got all the conspiracies coming together, and it seems like that's what always happens.
Yeah.
Right? They're never like, I believe this one thing, but all the other conspiracies, I don't know about those. I believe this one thing with the aliens. Often there's a buy-in to like this wide set of conspiracy theories that affects universities and the government and corporations.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. There was a study I read, actually reading it today. The recipe for people having a UFO experience includes, but is not limited to, people New Age beliefs, like having New Age beliefs, very susceptible.
Yeah.
But also knowing someone who had an experience. Mm-hmm. If you know somebody who had an experience, you're more likely to have an experience yourself. and people who are willing to buy into fantasy and have a high fantasy drive. Those people are wonderful to play D&D with, but they will also jump on the I saw this bandwagon in a hot second.
Yeah, it's almost like openness to experience personality trait, not high enough to be psychotic, but high enough to be dysfunctional, where their ability to think abstractly kind of runs amok.
Yeah.
The ability to generate ideas and fantasy runs amok. Their intellectual curiosity is there, but they don't have the logic to effectively use it.
Right.
So they're curious, but they're not applying reason in order to take in information and interpret it. They're misinterpreting everything. Yeah. So it's almost like the worst, one of the worst levels of openness to experience, outside of being psychotic or being like super concrete. And I think that's what's happening. These are whimsical. Often these are whimsical people.
Right.
And if you look at the New Age stuff, you have like you can manifest money. You never actually get the money, but you can manifest the money. And
I'm going to will it. I'm going to put my will into the universe and manifest it back for me.
This manifesting stuff is the antithesis of OCD treatment, because once people get an idea in their mind, in the realm of intrusive thoughts here, if I can think about it enough, then that makes it true. The whole will it into existence, manifest it kind of thing, which is life for an OCD sufferer, that because I'm thinking something, then it must mean that it's going to come true. Because I have this intrusive thought about hurting someone, that must mean that's actually what I want to do. And if that's actually what I want to do, then I have to do something else to make sure I don't do that. And so they're being encouraged by this New Age movement of manifest it and it'll come true. So they get terrified. What if I have the wrong thought? And then that comes true because I manifested it. And it is the worst rabbit hole in the entire world. And once that manifest thing comes up, as it often does in sessions for OCD treatment, you know exactly where they're going with that. Because the mind, the fear part of their mind is already set on my thoughts have to be perfect, or they have to be whatever they have to be. And if I think the wrong thing, then I've manifested it, and now my whole life is screwed up. And it is the most horrible thing in the world. And if I could, a delete button on that manifesting stuff, I would do it in a heartbeat, because that would improve so many people's lives when they realize, just because I think something, that doesn't mean it's actually true. It just means it was in my head. And that would be a game changer.
It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man nightmare. Right? The movie Ghostbusters, right?
Yeah,
he had a clean slate, right?
Yeah.
And the spoiler alert for Ghostbusters.
Oh, man.
And he imagined the...
Mike hasn't seen it.
I haven't seen that one.
You imagine the Stay Puft...
1,000 times. I haven't seen it 1,000 times.
That was really an excellent
Only
movie.
998 times.
Yeah.
Excellent movie.
Yeah, it was.
And the special effects were pretty good considering...
They were excellent considering the time. But yeah, you're right. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, yeah. Clear your minds. Don't think about anything. I tried to think about the most harmless thing. The thing that could never, ever, ever kill any of us. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
And wasn't it spelled like P-U-F-T or
Yes.
something? Stay Puffed.
Stay Puffed. Yes, you're Stay Puffed.
Attention to detail in that movie.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it was amazing.
Oh, my gosh.
Tangent here. I know. We never go on tangents.
A tangent
here.
in this show?
No
we
kidding.
never do that.
I know. The name Ghostbusters was actually owned by a cartoon before the movie, and they were trying to get the rights to use the name, but they were told by the studio to do Ghost Chasers, I think. Something like that. As a backup. So they started filming scenes, and they had to film each scene twice that had the word Ghostbusters in it. So Ivan Reitman was the director. He got tired of doing that, so he's like, screw it. And he gets an entire 150 to 200 extras to come in and start screaming Ghostbusters in a sequence. And then told him, this cost us this amount of money to film this. There's no way we can film it again and get it that perfect. You have to get the name. So the studio, who was balking at paying for the name, finally paid for it and got the name Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Paid off for them, I'm sure.
It absolutely did.
Yeah, I really love that car.
Ecto one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really love that. It was a
hearse.
station wagon, right? Or a hearse?
It was an ambulance. It was an
Ambulance,
old
right. Yeah. Yeah. That was, and just the way they decked it out. And even the siren. Like, it was just, it was perfect.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I love that.
When it went around the turns, it would roll, because it was all top heavy.
That whole franchise was great. Initially, because Dan Aykroyd wrote it, and initially he wrote it as being futuristic and set in space.
Wow.
And they were, kind of, it was supposed to be like Ghostbusters were kind of everywhere. They were like janitors or exterminators. So it was going to be this like comedic thing about them, going off to work and just, I got to go get some more ghosts. But, they couldn't afford the super special effects, and it's kind of evolved over time.
Did it take place in, I'm sure it was shot in New York, parts of it, I imagine,
Yeah.
right? Did it take place in New York?
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Very good. So, back from the tangent.
Back from the tangent.
Came back.
Yeah, we're manifesting things. I mean, as ghosts manifested in Ghostbusters, and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was manifested. Yeah. People manifest a lot of things, but when you believe they can manifest things, one, we run into some OCD issues, but also like they believe they can manifest things, they believe that other people are manifesting them as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And to your point about the logic, there are a lot of people who have just enough knowledge and just enough ability. Like they might have great use of logic, but they're missing information. So the logic is telling them that this is wrong. But because it's contrary to what their logic is telling them, there must be something missing. And they start looking down other rabbit holes for what's the explanation for this. But then they might not have the scientific background. Sometimes they do have a scientific background, but they're not applying the scientific method to that. And I always like to say science isn't a collection of data. Science is a way of investigating the world.
Yeah, it's a method.
It's a method. And a lot of people think they know the method and think they're applying it, but they're just trying to do common sense. And I always put that in quotes. I even use finger quotes for it because it's the most annoying thing in the world. Common sense, there's no such thing. People tell, common sense will tell you, no, you lost me because that's not a thing.
They also say do your own research.
Yeah. Okay. By do your own research, do you mean create a plan for experimentation, run it through a panel, get approval for human experimentation, create the procedures, and then run statistical oh, no, you mean read on the internet. That's what they mean.
That's the research.
That's what they mean.
My only source of research is News Nation now that I found it.
And the Debrief.
And the Debrief, right. That's the only place I go to. Is there another way?
I mean, there's Wikipedia. You try
now
Wikipedia.
you're talking.
Yeah.
Now you're talking.
Try Wikipedia.
All right.
Do your own research.
On Wikipedia.
On Wikipedia. And Facebook.
And
You do your research on Facebook.
Only two credible sources, I think.
Or Instagram, Snapchat.
Right.
You can use those as well.
They're
That's where
credible.
you get that.
Credible.
TikTok. You do TikTok. You can get a lot of credible information on TikTok, although
Right.
you'd have to scroll through a lot of stuff for
That's
that.
true.
But each video is short, so
Yeah,
it's not
very
bad.
short. Very quick.
Worth it. I mean,
watches. Yeah.
doing my own research takes time, and got to
You might
be
as well have
committed
fun
to it.
with it sometimes.
Might take 10 or even 12 minutes
Thank-
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, but if you can hear somebody from the Midwest who's not an expert in anything tell you that what you believe already is true,
Sold.
research done,
Done.
right?
Do you guys ever watch the show Barry on HBO?
I've seen it.
have
I've seen
not.
it come up there on Max, whatever it is now.
Excellent show.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
never watched it though.
Yeah, Bill Hader, and I love Bill Hader. And this was a much different role for him, but excellent show. I really liked it. There's a part in there. He was a
Wait,
hitman.
hold on. Just before you get it, this is a one-off. Like
Right.
this is Jeff knows
I've
the show. You and I have never
This
seen.
never happened.
This never happens. This is a historic moment.
Let's bask in the moment
I'm
here for a
wrapped. Go
moment.
ahead.
I'm just going to bask in the moment here for a second. Yeah, hitman, former military and hitman, and he was trying to give that life up. Moves to the middle of nowhere, and there's a scene. Speaking of trying to confirm someone's thinking process, there's a scene where he's listening to these sermons from these different preachers, and he's trying to find something that will confirm to him that murder is not always bad, not always a sin. So he's clicking through these different podcasts or sermons, and the one says murder is always a sin. Nope, next. And the next says God says murder's a sin. Next. And he keeps going. You see him over multiple days doing this, and he gets to one where the guy says, "I murdered my brother one time, and it was the best thing ever. Murder is definitely not always a sin." Grip, done. And he pulls the gun out and goes in to shoot the And it was a comedic thing, but it's the kind of thing that exactly like we're talking about, just not as funny as that, where somebody will look for something that agrees with them so that they can then take it and say, I did my research and now I know that this thing is true or whatever it is. And it's the same. We all do it at various times. Sometimes, though, like with David Grusch, it has a little bit higher stakes than other situations, unfortunately.
Yeah, one way to kind of, I think, a short and sometimes effective assessment tool to see if somebody's kind of like a diehard alien conspiracy theorist is to ask about the X-Files. Yeah. Is it a show that was entertaining about a couple of FBI agents? Or does it reveal some greater truth about...
Gillian Anderson was great in that show. David Duchovny was okay. I think best role he's ever done.
Californication was a good role for Duchovny. You ever see that series?
No. Yeah.
It's actually pretty good. It was actually a pretty good series.
Yeah.
Wait, I might have you guys ever seen the Netflix movie You People?
I believe I have.
I might have another one that I've seen that you guys might not. David Duchovny's in it. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
It's an excellent movie. I really like it. But nonetheless, this might be a second one of the night.
I've watched so many movies. I might not be able to place.
This was a recent one.
I may have seen it because it's more recent, but I don't know. I've seen Barry pop up on my Max.
Yeah, I think it's.
It was HBO Max for a while. Now it's Max. Right. I saw it pop up several times. I'm like, I should watch that.
Yeah, shut up.
And I should watch a lot of different things because I really want to stay abreast of them, but I have very little time.
Oh, well.
Between doing my own research.
Looking through News Nation for all your information.
No, I mean, I really want to do my own research on a number of different things, like not literature review of the internet to support myself, but actual research, like actual honest to goodness, like forming experiments and getting, approval to run an experiment and collecting data, running statistical analysis.
First, you have to get the aliens to agree to be participants.
Right. But then again, the problem is you collect information, you process the information, you put it out there, and then somebody's going to come along and say, well, that's disinformation. Which brings us back to David Grusch and one of the things like he talking about some of the claims and things that are being made about how this conspiracy is continuing. And it's not that they're keeping quiet, it's that they're giving out information, but it's not correct information. They're hiding it with disinformation.
Well, it comes back to the paranoia and the evil actors. So you really need the evil actors. It's interesting, the belief in aliens isn't about aliens coming to the planet. It's really about government officials hiding information. That's what it's really about. It's the aliens, like, they're just coming by all the time. It's like Men in Black, right? They're going to New York, shaking hands with Jay or whatever.
They're all around us, yeah.
And but those guys in the suits
they're playing basketball, Dennis Rodman.
they're keeping the secret so that it allows for just a larger kind of paranoid mentality where you're now not just distrusting aliens. They might actually be the good guys trying to save us. You're distrusting the Men in Black.
Right. The ones that are supposed to be protecting us and so forth. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the Men in Black because I didn't want to be the one to bring up Men in Black. We're talking aliens, so it inevitably was going to come up.
Yeah, right.
Men in Black, man, they goes way back before that movie. But interestingly enough, technically, the Men in Black could be folded into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Only because Marvel now owns the rights to the comic book Men in Black, from which the movie was drawn, which is actually a way, way darker comic book than the movie was. The first, and they cover more than just aliens. The first issue has like one of the agents being killed by a demon,
Oh wow!
Like that's why they go looking for another partner for K, because his partner L gets killed.
Yeah,
he doesn't retire.
When you search for the book, the comic book, the image on the front is not what I expected.
No.
Yeah, it's
very
terrifying.
Dark. Very, very dark comic book. Very, very dark. The neuralizer throughout that is also, they do mention it, they do use it, but they only use it because it's this huge device that is very dangerous and could liquefy brains. They only use it when they're sure that a person has to stay alive. Otherwise, they go to assassination. Like they'll kill people before. They try and do trickery first, and they try and make people less credible, attack the credibility first, and then try and steal evidence second, and then trickery third. I mean, they try to, but they end up ultimately having to go to assassination after that. And if they can't assassinate somebody and they need to keep them quiet, that's when they kidnap them and go to the neuralizer. And
I think it was in.
It's not just a little flashy pen thing that they could hold in their pocket.
I think like the first two Men in Black's very good. The third one was not as good, but there was a line in the third one that I really liked. I think it was Josh Brolin played a young supposed
K.
to be a young
K.
Tommy Lee Jones, right? And Will Smith, who really has great delivery sometimes. Now he's not, his only skill is in slapping people. He has other talents.
He does have other talents.
And it was something about, I forget the discussion led up to it, but they were in a car, and Josh Brolin's character said something like he was 25, and Will Smith said something to the effect of, "You have a lot of city miles on you." I don't know why that line always struck me. It was perfect in the moment. It was the perfect line, and he delivered it perfectly. Because you're thinking the same thing, like, well, 25, what?
A lot of city miles on.
All right. So there's another story related to this. The Las Vegas aliens. Did you see that?
I did not.
No. There was a story about this. It was partially captured on body camera. I don't remember all the details. I did a video on it, but it was a few weeks ago. But there was a something in the sky, like something, I think it was green or blue, went across the sky in Las Vegas. And a family called 911 and said, something in their backyard or whatever. And the police officers responded. They had the body cameras going. And essentially, long story short, the family suggested that there were aliens in their backyard.
Okay.
And it was interesting because this has led to it came out kind of the same time as this,
right?
And it's kind of reinforced it. And at least one of the police officers seemed like he was kind of excited to be on an alien case. Like he
finally.
Yeah, he appeared to be like maybe believing he was actually going to find something. Is the impression you got from from what he was saying. But yeah, there was this one moment where he stopped a car in front of this house. There was a neighbor driving by or whatever. And he's like, I forget the exact discussion. It was something like, these people saw something in the backyard or whatever. And he's going on. At one point, he says something to the effect of, if you see anything, especially in your backyard, let us know. And that always struck me as kind of funny. Like, why would the backyard be important? Like, are backyard aliens somehow worse than
front yard aliens?
If you see a front yard alien, don't worry about it.
If they were in the front yard, they'd be obvious. They'd be there, and they'd just be standing around, probably with pamphlets of some sort.
Of course. Right.
Knocking on doors, ringing doorbells.
I can just picture some family, like a couple in the house, and they see the aliens in the front yard, reaches for the phone. Whoa. Didn't you hear the cop? Backyard aliens are the ones we have to worry about.
You don't have to worry about them if they're in the backyard. If they're in the front yard, they're fine.
And then
they're not trespassing if they're in the front. They're trespassing when they go in the back.
So the alien starts to walk to the side. What does that count? Is that the backyard yet? No, the backyard's halfway. You have to be halfway back.
Halfway.
You're on the phone almost. They're going. No.
No, they turn around.
If they cross the fence.
That was just, they were just reading the electric meter. It's fine.
They just want to know about our electricity habits here on Earth. Then they're going back. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Scary Movie 3 has a lot of alien things in it, and they're their take on seeing aliens is they play this footage, and it's just of various ridiculous things, college parties and animals doing things. And there's an alien very obviously walks in front of the camera a few times. It just looks over at the camera, does it a few times. And they yeah, do you see it? Do you see the alien? And let's play it again. And then it goes and walks again. Yeah, you see it again? There it is. The very obvious, very stereotypical looking alien. And that's really what I want to see. It's just this very obvious, somebody's in their house and they're videotaping the front yard. You see it? There it is. It's at the door.
That's just Bob. What are you talking about, man?
Yeah, that's nothing, man. See, maybe that's what the reaction would be.
It's just Bob.
Yeah, this isn't a big deal. We can see them right there. It's the ones where it's this barely visible image of this alien creature-looking thing. That's what we want to know more about. That's what's going to make headlines.
Yeah, I mean we've got to worry about the organizations that keep Paul in the box, the ones that are chasing him down, trying to get him back.
Right.
That organization is who we need to worry about. Paul is just he's just a dude. E.T. fed into that as well. Same thing. Like, oh, E.T.'s just this little kid trying to get home, and the government then tries to.
Right, the government was the bad guy.
Where they were the bad guys. Like that's always kind of the way it is with these conspiracy theory types. Mm-hmm. But you see things in the sky in Vegas, right? Like, and it happens all the time. There's so many reports. That's why it got changed to UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon, because a lot of stuff in the sky. The big problem I have with a lot of reports about UAP stuff is it happens at night, and it's just lights. And people claim that it was 1,000 feet up, and it must have been 1,000 feet across.
And it went so fast.
How do you know that it was 1,000 feet across and 1,000 feet high? There's literally nothing to tell you that data. Like there is no scale at which you can, no point of reference upon which you can say, well, this is this big, and it's this far away. And there's some people who are like, oh, well, there was an airplane flying in, and it must have been at X feet, and if it was, it's this. Like, but how do you know how high that plane was flying? Like, you don't. One of the things that convinced me of that was a demonstration I saw. They had a 5-foot kite flying at 25 feet, and then a 25-foot wingspan kite flying at like 100 feet, and you could not tell from one angle. You could not tell the difference between them. Yeah. You couldn't tell which one was which because they looked identical. Right. But if you walked over to the side and there was a tree that you knew how high it was, then you could tell the difference because then you could see which one was higher, which one was lower, and that could tell you the size comparison. But even then, if it's at night, your depth perception is off because the light is different. Right. So even people who are trained to make those kinds of things on ground level, you got nothing but stars as your point of reference. There is no way you can reliably say this was 1,000 feet up or 10,000 feet up, or maybe it was 20 feet up. You don't know, and there's no way to say.
Yeah.
In the Las Vegas aliens case, there was a bunch of people uploaded videos, so the family took some cell phone video, but of course, it was moving around and no aliens, even though the aliens were supposed to be right there.
Because nobody can just like set their phone and be like, okay,
record
stable.
This seems important to get.
And so this seems important to get. So I'm just gonna
exactly
look, it's over there. Over there. It's do you see it?
I'm gonna get my 8mm camera from over
it's
here.
Over there.
Just in case. Yeah.
Yeah, so they
watch out, the Zapruder film's in there.
So you had,
original. Take that out first.
Oh.
So you had people trying to analyze what video they did get, right? Which is just very. So it was like this opening in their backyard fence. I think it was some lot where they were working on a truck or something, and so like a bunch of people are crowded in this space, and somebody's doing this with the camera, and like I don't see anything. But then these guys upload videos like, look, I've broken this down frame by frame, and I've changed the coloring, and you could see like there was a piece of construction equipment, like a backhoe or something. And they're like, right there, you can see the eyes, and you can see the mouth. I don't see anything. Oh, this next frame, you can definitely see the outline.
Right.
I don't see anything.
Right.
See, that's definitely that common thing that we call pareidolia, right? Like seeing patterns where there are no patterns, and especially faces where there are no faces. It's the reason why wall outlets in the United States all look shocked. Right? Right? They do. I know. I love that pun. I love using that pun. But seriously, they're all like,
Yeah.
But we see a face there. There's no actual face. It's just the way it's aligned reminds us of a face. So pareidolia says there's a face there. It's why we can see bunny rabbits in the clouds, and it's why we can end up having patterns of things like this that come up, and people run down those rabbit holes because they say, "Oh, you see, there's in the toast."
Right. There's a religious figure in the toast.
There's a religious figure on the toast. On the toast, I say.
Or a potato.
Right. Like, this potato looks like Elvis. You squint and turn it upside down, maybe?
Or Cheeto or something, in the shape of whatever.
This Cheeto looks like Abraham Lincoln.
Right.
It's a perfect Abraham Lincoln. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That's 2 Abraham Lincoln jokes in one show.
Bringing us all down.
He's a popular figure these days.
Wasn't that in a Simpsons episode? The Cheeto that
That might have been.
Probably.
it was a potato chip.
Was it a chip?
I think it was a potato chip.
Okay.
Homer found a potato chip that looked like he had a collection of potato chips that looked like various figures, and then they all got eaten. Simpsons joke counter right there.
Mm-hmm. Smartest show on television, I've always said.
Yeah.
One of the longest running, too.
Yeah, it is one of the longest running primetime animated shows.
I don't know what year
I think
it started.
it's one of the more primetime shows.
I remember seeing it in 1989.
That's when it started.
I think it's sometime around when it started.
Old as I am.
Yeah. 1989.
And the Simpsons themselves started before that, a couple of years before that, on
They're
the
part of
Tracy,
another
on the
show.
Tracy Ullman show,
Yeah.
as animated bits.
Mm-hmm. But the stores were right away filled with Simpsons merchandise.
One of the recent Treehouse of Horrors, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, actually had the ghosts of the animated Simpsons from the Tracy Ullman show appear in with the modern Simpsons.
They looked
It's
quite
hilarious.
different.
They're very, very different.
Yeah.
And Homer sounded nothing like.
Because it was hurting his voice,
Yeah.
the actor, and he changed to the easier version of Homer later on. Not too long after they started. They did so many. It's a good thing he changed.
Yeah, really.
Over 30 years. Is that right?
34 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we know Homer. And speaking of Treehouse of Horrors and Simpsons, Homer was abducted by aliens, Kang and Kodos,
That's right.
who then pretended to be Bill Clinton, Bob Dole,
Political candidates, right?
political
Yeah. Presidential
candidates
candidates.
to get arrested. But they made him. They attacked his credibility by spraying him down with rum, and then dropping him back off in the boat. So when he got home and started telling everybody he got abducted by aliens, they're like, "Oh, whew, rummy." But that's disinformation and dishonesty. That's the name of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that does have one of my favorite Simpsons lines ever. Don't blame me. I voted for Kodos.
It's a two-party
It's a
system.
two-party system. You have to vote for one of us.
Simpsons has done quite a bit of aliens with those aliens. They really,
Kang and Kodos have been in a lot of
they're major characters.
I think one of the best ones it was the X-Files episode. Gillian Anderson, David Duchovny actually did voices of their characters on there. They were investigating alien sightings in the woods. Turns out it was just Mr. Burns.
He was taking some drug to make
He was
him
taking
glow.
it was ether to help with the skin scraping, and then the eye drops that made him really big, and he was taking something else and like scraped out his throat or something like that. All these youthful things,
Right.
trying to extend his life, and then he's just floating through the woods. Like, what about the glow? Oh, he's been around the nuclear power plant for decades, and he's gonna glow. He just glows. But that right there is where that's actually a rather mundane explanation for something that people had hysteria about. What is going on here. And I think there's a lot of that going on with a lot of the stuff that Grusch is talking about, and a lot of the stuff that this Vegas alien thing. I'm gonna have to look into that one. Sounds fun.
It was one of the few that I guess you could say cases like that were captured on body camera, although they didn't actually capture anything meaningful except the interactions with the people. But
Right, body cams are great great for a lot of different things, but like when you're moving around a lot, they're not that great. It's one of the reasons I appreciated something. I was involved with a client dealing with police at one point, and he comes in to the room. He's talking to the client. He's like, I'm going to record this if you're okay with that. She's like, yeah. And he takes the recorder off and he sets it on the table pointed at her and says, just don't worry about it. Just talk. And I'm like, I appreciate that because he's not standing there like jostling it the entire time. So you get this weird, like he sets it down. So he gets a stable shot to get a stable recording, which is something that should be done instead of waving your cell phone around or running around with your body cam going all over the place.
I always find it interesting the angle that the hands maintain when you see, because the body cams are positioned so low sometimes that it's this weird thing with the hands. You don't get that view of them anywhere but body cams. Nobody records from here, in the middle of their abdomen. So,
Right.
And when sometimes when they're like holding a gun, it's like it's actually above the camera because they're extending their arms. It's just body cameras have brought us that view that we never had.
I don't know. I think I prefer that view to the being like sitting up here, and then when they bring the gun up, it's like a first-person shooter view. like I don't want to feel like I'm playing, Call of Duty when I'm watching a body cam image of something going on.
On the head would be the best, though, if they had them up there.
That's where they had them in Aliens. I think right on the helmet.
Some good shots.
Right on the helmet, right next to the ammo.
As they were spinning out of control. Right?
It's like, fix your camera. Whack.
So I think the Vegas aliens really blended with the David Grusch story.
You mean the Blue Man Group? I love those guys.
That's a real commitment to paint. I guess that's paint, right? That they're.
Yep.
Yeah. Can that be good for them? I don't know. I guess it depends on the type of paint.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been doing it for a while and they're still around.
Maybe they are just
Unless
naturally blue.
Unless they keep replacing, or they're actually aliens.
Yeah.
I wonder if like one day they go take it off. Wait a second. This doesn't come off. They're musical, essentially, right? Musical.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Like maybe they're just aliens. Like they are the aliens just standing there.
This is apparently what they're looking for in the Las Vegas thing.
Okay.
right. Yeah. It's like
It's just this unidentified shape.
right. Yeah. But yet people will be like, look, you can see exactly the outlines of what are you seeing?
They're seeing 2 pixels that are lighted up in parallel to each other because it's 2 pixels, so they're always going to be parallel, but they're close enough proximity that, that's glint in the eyes of whatever it is. Why do you think whatever it is has eyes? If it's an alien, it might not have eyes. But everybody thinks of the classic
Right. Yeah.
It
little
looks like
gray,
some
little
kind of
gray
a
or little green man.
stormtrooper
Roswell.
type thing. This thing that they've highlighted in this image looks like some kind of little stormtrooper with a gun. And I mean, it looks like it fits in with the stuff around it. It's the same color as the stuff around it. But it looks like a little stormtrooper there, just like this.
Maybe it's a sticker of a stormtrooper stuck on the side of the machine.
On the equipment. Yeah.
Right.
You never know.
Could be. You don't know. But people are looking for fantastical explanations for things that aren't fantastical. They probably aren't fantastical. I was looking into, in researching this, my fiance and I were looking at stuff, and she pointed out that one of the fact sheets for 1954, there were over 15,000 reports of unidentified flying objects across the country. And all but 300 of them had logical, reasonable explanations. The other 300 were just left unknown. And that doesn't mean that they were alien craft. It just means that there was no readily available explanation and that there wasn't any evidence to lead to an explanation. Doesn't mean that there wasn't something reasonable going on.
Flying squirrels are a possibility.
Yeah, could have been flying squirrels. Absolutely. Rocky could have been out there. Bullwinkle could have been chilling out.
A flying squirrel with a flashlight. Took a flashlight.
Right.
Or
maybe it was just the glint off of his goggles. Right?
his jetpack.
Well, Rocky the Flying Squirrel, Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yep. Yeah, so all these things combine, right? I guess that's the conspiracy,
Yeah.
right? All these factors combine, and people build this image in their mind.
I got to say one thing. I can't wait to be roasted in the comments for this video. So there are going to be people who are just going to tear us apart for.
Yeah.
The big argument here, right, is like, well, the universe is so large, it's like 13.5 billion light years in diameter or whatever, right? That there must be somewhere, other life. I don't know if there is or not, but that's the argument, right? So it's just a mathematical argument.
Mathematically speaking, yes, there is likely to be life on other planets based on some of the mathematical statistics. But if you look at this number of animal species and life species that have existed on this planet, how many trillions of different species have existed, and how many of them have developed the ability to change the world and potentially go into space.
Mm-hmm. Or even send signals into space.
One.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's, 1 in several trillion chance of that happened just here. There are billions and trillions of other worlds out there. There might be life on them, but they have to have the same kind of 1 in a trillion chance of it happening there. Mm-hmm. Now, am I saying that it didn't happen? No. I don't have that evidence. But I also don't have the evidence that it happened there.
Yeah. Well, there's all kinds of arguments, right? That like, well, maybe they're not advanced enough yet. Maybe we're one of the first, if not the first, in the entire universe, life forms. And the bottom line is, I've never seen anything to lead me believe that aliens have visited Earth. They may be out there, I don't know. Yeah. But I've never been convinced at all that they've actually come here.
Yeah.
With now video, the capacity to take video is in the hands of many people on the planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
It's
almost everybody.
It's practically ubiquitous to our culture at this point.
Yeah.
So no one can get just hold the phone steady and get the alien.
Nobody's, the problem is they're doing it on Snapchat, and the Snapchat video is just gone. I was in the wrong app. I meant to be on Instagram.
Yeah.
I wanted to Insta that. I Snapchatted it.
Dan would have stayed there forever.
I'm convinced we could start an Instagram, whatever they are out there. Is that a page or whatever you call it? Profile.
Sure.
And fake, grainy, like when you set up these alien pictures, even just as a joke. Like you have this little cardboard cutout, you put them in the woods back there, and you get the shot from a distance. Like, what is that? Could it be the shape of like an almond-shaped head?
Right.
And we'd probably get people like, no, this is definitely proof. This is proof that
I've seen that before. Yeah.
We'll just take a frame from Cocaine Bear 1955 and just blur it out a little bit and then throw it up on
That's
there.
all we need. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Is it that can't be a bear back there? That's not a bear. No, there's got to be an alien.
Definitive proof.
Now, I'm
alien
sorry.
existence. Yep.
It wouldn't be definitive proof of aliens. That would be definitive proof of Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
we need that too.
Mm.
Well, yeah.
We could put it all on the same Instagram profile.
We know Bigfoot and aliens are hanging out.
That's true.
They're chilling.
Get one of them shaking hands or trading papers or drug deal. I knew Bigfoot was a coke addict. He's getting space coke from this alien. This is the conspiracy we need to be looking out for.
Loch Ness Monster's behind them.
Oh, my goodness gracious. You guys are this is killing me. I got to talk about it because in my early 20s, I wrote a movie. I wrote a screenplay for a movie about it. Got a bunch of people trying to track down cryptos, like cryptozoology. Like they went up to Lake Champlain, tried to find the Lake Champlain monster champ. Mm-hmm. Went up to Area 51, tried to find aliens. They went down to the Pine Barrens in Jersey, tried to find the Jersey Devil. Mm-hmm. Like they never find anything throughout the entire. They're just hapless misadventures. They never find anything, except for the one guy Todd who says nothing. I didn't even know you then, so it wasn't even that I chose that name because of you. I didn't know you, but Todd always found the thing, and it somehow beats the crap out of him or something like. In the Lake Champlain monster, they're up on the deck, and then the camera crew goes down below deck to check the radar, the sonar, and that's when Todd pulls out a fishing rod and do some fishing off the boat, and then the monster grabs the fishing line, pulls him out. It's like water skiing around. And finally, like the sonar showing going wild, and they come up on deck just as Todd's pulling himself back up on the boat, and they're like, "You son of a bleep, bleep, bleep. You just ruined everything. We gotta go. You're just ruining everything." He gets abducted by the aliens. So, but the very end of the movie, like they've been up looking for Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest, and they go for a day and they don't find anything, and the one guy just starts going off like how this has been useless and the crew is terrible, and he points at the cameraman and says, "You better clean up that camera," and the cameraman turns it around, it's Bigfoot, and he just kind of goes over the thing, and he's like, "And the sound guys are terrible," and you turn around, and this is where you turn around and there's the almond-shaped aliens that are sitting there with the soundboard like, "Hmm?" and the boom operator, if the boom shows a shot comes in one more time, and it was going to be the big most expensive special effect of this whole thing was going to be Champ sitting there with the boom in its mouth like, "Hmm?" It's going to be the end.
Well, now that you gave the whole movie away.
Spoiler alert.
A spoiler alert for the movie that was never made. Never ever.
But when it is made,
if it ever gets made, I would still make that movie.
It sounds like
to
a good
this
one.
day, because it was going to be hilarious.
It sounds hilarious.
The Jersey Devil thing, by the way, they weren't ever going to get to they were going to stop at the hockey rink. And Todd was going to be standing outside because they have a camper, they're going to drive around the country, and Todd's just standing around the camper as one of the other guys gets on, and he goes, "Man, this Jersey Devil thing sucks," and just gets on. But of course, a bunch of Jersey Devils fans are here and they're like, "What?" And I just bum rush Todd and knock him over. Todd never gets to say a word through the entire movie either.
No lines.
Except at the very end.
That sounds really good.
Yeah. It was a great movie idea. I wrote it out. Never got a chance to make it because I didn't have the money to. But some of my friends were going to help me film that if we could get a hold of a camper. But we were never able to get a hold of a camper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Still time.
At this point, some of my friends have kids at this point. Some of them have been abducted by aliens and are just gone.
That happens. Yep.
There's a lot of friends to aliens.
We all have that one friend. Right. I'll get that one friend who's abducted by aliens. If I ever get a chance, I will make that movie. And it will be phenomenal and terrible all at once.
Sounds good. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we covered David pretty well.
Yeah.
And
covered
many
a lot
other
of
things.
Yeah.
And many, many other things.
Yeah.
Thanks for this episode of Tangents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Tangents.
And if you've stayed this long.
So we have other episode ideas coming up. Looking at the Titan submersible disaster. Recent case, very popular case. No aliens as far as I know, but when you get down the ocean really far, it's kind of like an alien environment.
That's true.
It can be.
Yeah. So covered that.
Our 3D objects. I had a UFO on the tables before, so I don't think I want to do a UFO, and we had an alien as well. Of course, that was one of our mascots for the alien lizard humanoids.
Right.
So I'm open to suggestions for this one. Should I do another UFO? Should I do another alien? I don't know.
Maybe you do the missing evidence. Papers or...
Just a box that says missing evidence.
That would be perfect. Just with nothing in it.
Missing documents.
Right.
Oh, any final thoughts? I forgot to do final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Okay, I got one. Speaking of memories that you're not sure if they're actually true or not, I don't know if this one's true, but I want to think that it's true. Okay, I think that when I was in elementary school, I went to the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair, and
I've been there many times.
Yeah, and I think that somehow I got to ride on an elephant at this Renaissance Fair. Now, were there actually elephants there to be rode on? I don't know. Was I actually even at the Renaissance Fair? I also don't know that. But this memory has stuck with me for years now, and I'm choosing to believe it. Okay?
Well, I will say that at times at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair, there have been elephants.
Okay. All right. See?
that people have been allowed to ride.
All right. See, so the story might be true. Nonetheless.
I don't know if you were ever at the PA Renaissance Fair and rode one of those elephants, but I know that that is a thing.
I'm pretty sure I was there. Probably maybe elephants. Maybe I was there. I don't know. But nonetheless, it makes me think of this. It makes me think of this case and cases like it, because I don't know if that memory is true. I want it to be true. I want someone to come along and say, yeah, there were elephants there in the past. That gives me credibility. That makes me feel like I'm credible. But same kind of thing can be said for situations like this, where somebody has some kind of belief. They look for other people to affirm that belief, and everything can go very poorly from there. It doesn't always go poorly, because if I believe that I rode on an elephant, then that makes me feel better about my life. So I support this idea that, okay, maybe there's some things you don't remember 100%, but it's harmless. Go ahead and believe it. In a situation like this, that might really affect some people, because now you have to have hearings about it in the Senate, and now you've got News Nation and the Debrief gaining traction, and that's never a good thing. And now you've got people that are high-ranking military officials being brought into this alien stuff, and that's not a good thing. So it becomes kind of a choice. What do I choose to do here? If I think something might be true, should I pursue this or should I not? Well, I don't have any evidence. I've never actually seen any of these things. Maybe reconsider if you actually pursue this line of thinking or not. It's a dangerous game that you're playing when you try to find reasons to validate or affirm what you already thought was true. So I think it requires some effort on the individual's part, but I think it's worthwhile to understand maybe I should really consider if this is something that I should actually start pursuing or worth pursuing or not. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, and to think about kind of where the beliefs originate, because I noticed a lot of UFO believers, they have experiences that were relayed to them by their parents.
Yeah. And
they never really questioned that.
Yeah.
And Albert Ellis, the famous mental health researcher, said that, a lot of problems occur in life because people believe their parents. Mm-hmm. It was 100% right. Yeah. Mike?
So cases like this, things like this, discussions about UFOs, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, those kinds of things, like they always bring up to me Occam's razor. And a lot of people are like, Occam's razor is just the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. Actually, it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's the explanation with the fewest assumptions is usually the correct one. And anything that involves UFOs starts with 1,000 different assumptions about life off this planet. Like we know factually life exists here. An assumption is something that doesn't have evidence, but is being assumed to be true. We're assuming. We know life exists on this planet. We don't have any evidence that life exists on other planets. We can be pretty sure, but that's still an assumption. Mm-hmm. So explanation one, something mundane and explainable happening here. Explanation two starts with assumption aliens exist. And then next assumption is that they developed technology allowing them to fly in the space
with no brakes.
With no brakes, apparently. Assumption three, they can fly through space and chose to come here. Mm-hmm. Assumption four, they're terrible enough pilots that they just crash because they have no brakes, apparently. Great engineers enough to travel throughout the galaxies, no way of stopping their ships except for plowing right into thing. I love the explanation of Roger, by the way. The reason he's here is because he was the crash test dummy. American Dad. Mm-hmm. But assumption number three, they crashed here and people found it. Assumption four, the government is now covering it up. Mm-hmm. Assumption five, it can be covered up. Assumption six, people are able to keep secret. Like we don't have proof for any of these things. They're assumptions, and all those assumptions pile up. And things like weather balloon has far fewer assumptions. It has a lot more evidence behind it. And if the explanation with the fewest assumptions is most likely to be the correct one, then any explanation that does not involve aliens from other planets flying through space and coming here is going to have fewer assumptions and is more likely to be correct.
Yeah.
That's my whole stance on this stuff, because I don't have evidence one way or the other about the existence of alien life. I don't actually have evidence, and I don't think that anyone has evidence, actual evidence, of alien, non-human craft here on this planet. Because I don't think they're here. But again, I don't have the evidence, so I can't definitively say one way or the other. But I know that because we don't have evidence, all that stuff is assumption. So I'm going to err on the explanation that's more likely to be true.
I think another way you could look at it too, if somebody's just like they're just stuck in that belief, would be, what are you going to do about it? Right? So the aliens are crashing into the planet every day, apparently. The government's running around cleaning up the mess. It's all working out. Right? I mean, yeah, it's terrible those aliens are crashing and everything, but what are you going to do? Right? You can't get them on your cell phone.
Right.
You can't get a clear shot of them. So just, live your life. Like, okay, they probably won't run into you.
Todd, they have, the aliens have telekinetic powers, and anytime you try and turn your phone on them, they're just going to turn it off. So you're just fighting against their telekinetic ability to get a clear shot, because they don't want you to get a clear shot. As, I don't know, maybe they think that this is a weapon. I mean,
That's true.
in some ways it is. But we can talk about cyberbullying else at some other time. But and maybe they think that there's a laser beam that's going to come out of this and hurt them. Maybe the flash photography is going to hurt them, like a mogwai. Bright light,
Yeah.
They're using their telekinetic abilities to manipulate it and get so that no, there's always shaky.
Yeah, yeah, they're very crafty. But I would say, if you can't, it seems like you can't do anything about it.
Space crafty.
They're space crafty. On that note,
On that terrible disappointment. Oh no, that's a different show. We're not allowed to use that.
that's right. It's Top Gear. Well, Top Gear and then
Grand Tour.
Grand Tour, right?
Grand Tour.
Which I think is coming to an end. I think Grand Tour is.
They did have a one that came out recently. And
I watched the one.
It was hilarious.
It was very good. The little car was blowing around the highway.
James May. That was a poor decision on his part.
It's funny because the car that Clarkson was driving, which is a kit car, right? Manufactured, I think, using an Italian sedan or something in the show. I think they said something like that. They're available here in the United States. They use Ford Mustang Fox bodies for them. Really the same thing with the horns and the round lights and the fake wheel.
Fake cowlings of wheel covers.
Wheels like that didn't have wheels in them. Yeah, I've seen those.
All inspired by the old Duesenbergs. If I could, I would have a Duesenberg.
It's probably a straight 8 like that. Like you had the long hood, you're inline 8. But they have those here, so they're popular. Not popular, but they're available in Europe.
Yeah,
and they're available here. All right, so we'll wrap up there. We will be back soon with more episodes of Alien, Lizard, Humanoids, and the murder part, and maybe someday the movie part. Although we kind of cover that in
it does
in the other episodes. Yeah.
I just saw a comment about the Cocaine Bear video that we did. Somebody said this should have been the movie part. Well, they're not wrong.
Could have been the movie.
Not wrong,
we could have relabeled that the movie part. So we'll be back.
But there was real life stuff that we talked about that happened
in the beginning. The origin story for the Cocaine
origin
Bear.
story.
So we'll wrap up there. Thank you so much for watching. Please put any comments in the comment section. We read them all, and we will be doing shorts based on questions. You have questions. And we will talk to you soon. Thank you so much.